know what you're talking about. I spent the day on some penny-ante case to get my mind off things. Went to a diner for dinner. Brooded, went home, brooded some more, and fell asleep. See? Waiting eye case. Not happy? Okay, because I'm going to be going to dinner in a few months. Yeah, see? I'm eating. Reading a book. And then I'm going to go home and fall asleep. But you guys want me to have committed the murder or something? Yes? Okay. Okay, well. Sorry, I didn't do it. My prints were on the gun because it was my partner's gun. You know? Okay, fine. We'll try this a second time. Okay. Maybe it involved a broad. These things always involve broad. Marlowe always said broads made things more interesting. I could think of a few things that broads really didn't improve. Like landscape paintings, and in general, those things that were improved by broads really depended upon the sort of broad in question. Certainly the broads that you put around the office, like so many office plants and air fresheners, didn't improve things much. But let's make ours a good broad. Let's make it mysterious, the sort that appears only in the shadows, and with a voice the color of the night sky. Yeah, I can see it now. She's standing in the doorway. She looks like the sort Marlowe would have gone nuts over. Anyway, let's give her a ledger. A ledger that Marlowe found, with dirt on the red clouds, so we got a motive. And then I went and I sat and waited for someone to come by so I could follow them on my detective case. Yeah, we'll go with that. Marlowe always used to say that the best part of the case was waiting. Some hedge drinker might say it was psychosexual, and that the anticipation was better than reality ever could be. Belchmers, I think they call it. That's how real horror show Moloko Plus works. The things you don't see are far worse than the things you ever do. So, I waited and followed the guy. Kept an eye on him. Waiting for a chance to use the dirt that I had on them to draw out the boss. The guy that killed Marlowe. Take him into a dark alley. Say something dramatic to him. Saying the dramatic thing that I always find difficult. And, I don't remember doing this, but it adds atmosphere. And here I am at dinner again, still trying to think of a halfway decent line to shoot this guy. Maybe something like, Marlowe's death has been killing me, and now it's killing you too. I plug him in the gut and slug. He falls to the ground groaning, trying to clutch his bleeding belly, and says, maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but you'll never find out. And then I say, I'll see you in hell. Yeah. No? Fine. Philistine. Fine. Alright, let's say that this book wasn't a ledger, but was instead something of far greater and more dreadful import. I don't recall if the dreams had started with the book, or if it was the book that inspired the dreams. All I know is that the dreams, if I can call them that now, are too real. The visions have seeped from my nightly fits into my waking life. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live in a placid island of ignorance amidst the black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should have voyaged far. The sciences, each straining in its own direction, hitherto have harmed us little, but some day the piecing together of the disassociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and our frightful position therein. That's pretty good. That we shall go mad from such revelations. I asked the seer to explain my dreams, but one does not talk of such matters. The book drew the response, and I was thrice damned and told to reconsider the red clouds. There's something uncanny and uncomfortable about reality clearly glimpsed. The true terror, not that there is no God, but there is one. Sort of like that song where they talk about how Santa Claus is always watching you. You'd hope that an all-powerful being would have something besides watching you two spend their time on. Well, wound to the ego aside, the reason that this one isn't a popular story is because it'd mean that we were left with the question of just what God did in his spare time. The red cloaks, I was told, would have the answers, so I waited and read more from the thrice-stabbed book about the fantasies too terrible not to be true, of how the king in yellow laughed in his tattered robes as Carcosa sang. I waited, watched, and followed. I'd realized that the red clouds had sold their souls to power beyond the stars. They prayed to the deep dark abyss where the webbed hands crawl along seabeds, where once mighty emperors, once and shall be again when the stars are right. I waited, watched, and followed. I saw the red clouds preparing hexagrams in blood. Marlowe's death had only been the beginning, and I knew that if they had their way, the streets would run red with the blood to awaken the thing in the deep. Marlowe's relevant quotation here melded with the rush of waves and the groaning of forgotten things in the deep. When he spoke, it was with the coruscating colors that did not exist, and my memory was from across cyclopean distances filled with mists, the gaps flooded with the shapes of impossible angles and vistas where the flaming clouds skated across blood-red skies, the sun sinking amid forests of teeth, the cries of the beasts from my dreams. The book. The red clouds were preparing me for sacrifice. I'd heard the thing in the deep calling to me nightly. I did what I had to do. Killed the inhuman thing that let the red clouds burn down the building. Vengeance was just an added benefit. Or does that one not work for you? What, not a fan of Lovecraft? What, Romulan's gotta keep it complicated? Fine, how about this? I got tired of cleaning up Marlowe's messes all the time. I'm gonna let him do us all a favor. Go after the red clouds. Maybe I even pulled the trigger myself. Not stopping him from investigating them would have been the same thing. The hardest part was shooting him. He looked at me with a mouth that asked why, eyes that knew better. You don't work with someone that long without wondering if you can do it. You know, if you really had to. I always imagined I'd be able to, shoot him if he'd gone mad and started taking pot shots at passers-by. Maybe. Marlowe himself always said, you shouldn't work with someone unless you were prepared to kill him. Funny in a business where the code says you're not supposed to. Unless the alternative is ratting him out to the cops. Then Marlowe was a funny guy. He'd gotten it into his head that the jobs were too simple, that maybe we should stage a heist, or maybe we should make it hard for ourselves, give the bad guy a head start. Well, I gave him the scenario he hadn't mentioned, and while he talked a big game, he wasn't ready for the oldest screwball in the game. Just fell a little surprised. With him dead, and the red clouds as the fall guy, it was a simple enough task to find a lieutenant and follow him all the way up to the kingpin. Told them I'd removed a thorn in their paw. Simple enough. The lion came out to thank the rat that had done their dirty work, and when he did, I shot him. Now, we both know that with how this crummy city runs, you'll never be able to get a jury to convict me, and you guys won't want to, not after what he's done to the system. And if you do, you'll probably get called out for being in the mob's pay. But knowing you called me here to see if I in fact did it. Probably give me a medal or something. A bit cold though, don't you think? I kill my good-for-nothing partner and pretend to avenge him, just so I can get away with removing a mob boss? I think a personal spat with Don Red Cloud would make better storytelling. Make me totally despicable. Alternatively, I can be a lot more sympathetic. Say Marlowe had cancer. 2 months to live, and wanted to make his death matter. And he begged me. First I refused, then in the end he won out. Always the blood's a sucker for now. Personally, I like number 3 the most. It's got a good cosmic horror feel to it. Monsters beneath the city streets, not just walking them in pinstripe suits. It's certainly the most interesting. Would make a good movie or something, but life's rarely so kind as to provide an interesting story. No, I didn't avenge my partner. I went home, went to bed, Tomorrow I'm going to testify against the Red Cloud's murder trial for Marlowe. Good night.